What's a little hate speech from a president who vowed with all of his soul to unite this country? Remember, all the way back on Inauguration Day, that very sad day? Well, today, what can you call this other than hate speech, describing half the country this way?
And there's something dangerous happening in America now. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. The MAGA movement.
The Make America Great Again movement does not believe in the basic foundation of our democracy. Look, I am MAGA through and through. Ultra-democratic, extremist democratic if you want. We believe in the Constitution, we believe in our country, but to say this, that we are a threat to democracy, that's where he's going with this.
It's un-American, but it never changes. The MAGA extremists across the country have made it clear where they stand. So the challenge for the rest of America, for the majority of Americans, is to make clear where we stand. Do we still believe in the Constitution? Do we believe in the basic decency and respect? The whole country should honestly ask itself, and I mean it sincerely, what it wants, and understand the threats to our democracy.
MAGA is a threat to democracy. Now, he goes back and forth. Sometimes he says MAGA, sometimes he says MAGA extremist. What is a MAGA extremist? What is that? I am about as MAGA as they come again. I love it. I love strong borders. I love less regulation, lower taxes. I love not getting into ridiculous foreign wars that we don't intend to win. Every now and then you got to fight a war, but other times, like Iraq, what else? I don't think that drag queens should be hanging around kids in school, right? This is not extremist stuff. This is common sense stuff. Look at what he's saying about us. And look at the great big pass he gives to the left.
I believe there's no place in America, none, for political violence. We have to denounce hate, not embolden it.
Except if it's coming from Black Lives Matter or Antifa, right? Remember Black Lives Matter summer? It was a glorious time for the left, social and racial justice. And when these riots were breaking out all over the place, elected officials, Democrats in the highest places said, it's beautiful.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be when people realize that this is a policy that they defend. It's a horrible thing.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not.
You see? Oh yeah, Maxine.
We have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet
Yeah, all right.
in a restaurant, in a department,
Get in their faces, right, Maxine?
you get out and you create a crowd.
Yeah. So, again, violence is fine when it's coming from the left. How hypocritical, right? How sad, how tragic, how dangerous is this mindset? Joe, with this crazy speech today, this passes for mainstream Democratic thought. The Constitution. When he talks about the Constitution, though, he tries to sound very, very righteous, doesn't it? Right? But it's not.
The threat to our political institutions, to our Constitution itself, and the very character of our nation. Democracy is maintained by adhering to the Constitution and the march toward perfecting our union by protecting and expanding rights with each successive generation.
Expanding rights for each successive generation, I don't know what that actually means. We have a beautiful Constitution. Every now and then we have to, maybe another amendment. But look, people disagree on the Constitution all the time. That's okay. We have a Supreme Court. You ever look up their decisions? These people are brilliant. They went to all the best law schools. And sometimes they totally see the same issue, the same text, in the exact opposite fashion. 5-4 decisions, 6-3 decisions, 7-2, 5-4. They're all over the place. And that's okay. We can disagree about the Constitution, right? Joe doesn't think so. It's very authoritarian. The tone here is authoritarian. And these tall tales, if foreign leaders are really owning Joe with this silly statement, then man, he's worse than we all thought.
Everywhere I go in the world, and I've met now with over 100 heads of state of the nations of the world, everywhere I go, they look and they ask the question, is it going to be okay? Think about this. First meeting I attended of the G7, the 7 wealthiest nations in the world, in Europe, the NATO meeting. I sat down, it was in January, after being elected, the late January, early February, and it was in England. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Macron looked at me and he said, Mr. President, for how long? For how long?
Ooh, I've heard this story a million times. It's fear-mongering, and it's also dishonest fear-mongering, because we looked up that little meeting he had with Mr. Macron, and this is what Joe sounded like that day.
And I've said before, and I apologize to repeat. That's Jake Sullivan. You know, Jake is my national security advisor. I'm leaving out a lot of people here. I apologize. I'm going to get in trouble. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But you know, there's a lot that is happening.
Oh, man. You see those two next to him? They are so embarrassed. That's the Commerce Secretary. There's the State Department Secretary. What was Joe actually saying? We broke it down. Blah, 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 blah. As I said before, I apologize. Oh, Jake Sullivan, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to get in trouble. But anyway, we'll get back to that. We know. All right. So the story he told is a made-up one. And this might be as well. What good friends he was with John McCain. I don't really care at this point, but for him, it's a big thing.
I often think about our friendship of 40 years. The hammer and tong debates we'd have in the Senate. We'd argue, we're like two brothers. We'd argue like hell. I mean, really go at one another. Then we'd go to lunch together. No, not a joke. Or John ride home with me. I mean, we travel the world together.
I just don't believe it. Two globalists having lunch together? I wonder what John McCain would say today. This Tony Blinken is now secretary. Tony Blinken, the guy who was understandably very, very awkward and just obvious. You could feel the guy's pain while Joe was mumbling away. John McCain totally objected to this man. Everything about him. He could not stand Tony Blinken, thought he was a threat to democracy.
And now we are going to promote this individual to replace probably the finest diplomat I've known, Mr. Secretary Burns, who is not only is Mr. Blinken unqualified, but he is, I believe, a threat to the traditional interests and values that embody the United States of America.
Tony Blinken, John McCain, a threat to the United States of America. Wow. Anyway, it would not be a complete hate speech if Joe did not bring up January 6th.
Whitewash attacks of January 6th by calling the spearing and stomping of police quote, a legitimate political discourse. Do you ever think you'd hear leaders of political parties in the United States of America speak like that? Seizing power, concentrating power, attempting to abuse power, purging and packing key institutions, spewing conspiracy theories, spreading lies for profit and power to divide America in every way.
This over-the-top false rhetoric, again and again and again, this is like justification to persecute MAGA, to really come after us, kick us off social media, throw us in jail. Who knows? He brings up January 6th. Republicans bring up January 6th. And don't ask these fundamental questions, right? They haven't been answered. The questions haven't even been asked. And I will ask again, who was this cop letting people on, encouraging people to enter the Capitol, right? Remember? I call this the little cop. What about those officers who were just there by the doorway as people came inside? Please, Why haven't we had sufficient answers into what looks to me like, well, welcome to the Capitol? And what about those 3 officers who walked off their post just before Ashley Babbitt was shot? Why did they walk away? Who ordered them? Why did they leave those doors unprotected? And how is it that Michael Byrd, the officer, could shoot and kill an unarmed woman and subsequently be lauded as a hero and actually promoted, and America's somehow fine with that? This is crazy stuff. This is un-American that these questions have not been asked or answered. Oh, and another one, the horns guy, who didn't break anything, who didn't hurt anybody. Did you see him being escorted around by the Capitol Police? We don't have 1% of what really happened on January 6th. All right, Joe, bad speech, bad guy. Next, please.
Is CNN the most trusted name in news?
They still call themselves the most trusted name in news. The nerve of these people. CNN is probably worse than it's ever been, and it's been bad for a long time. There's a person there by the name of Erin Burnett. Now, I don't know if she's more dishonest or they're all as dishonest as she is, but this is an outright falsehood. What she does, the contempt that she must have for her viewers, that she would try to fool them like this. This happened last night on her show in the aftermath of that phony lawsuit against Trump and the buildings in Mar-a-Lago and their valuations. Take a look.
And let's take a close look at another one of those properties that Trump refers to, 40 Wall Street, one of the most treasured jewels in Trump's crown. That property is central to the New York Attorney General's case against him. It is a building that Trump loves to tout. Just listen to him on 9/11. Let me just be clear here. This is on 9/11/2001. Moments after the World Trade Center buildings collapsed, here's Donald Trump.
40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan. And it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
Just think about that for a second. If you were alive on that day, that's what he said on 9/11. As all those people died, he's talking about how his building is now the tallest. And he wasn't even right. According to the Washington Post, this building, just 1 block east, 70 Pine, was still taller, if you care about that specific fact. But that's the reality of Trump. That's his MO. Say it, even if it's not true.
And she wasn't done with that. She had to invite swamp lawyer Ty Cobb, remember him, to jump on the dog pile.
Say in all of this, Ty, one thing that just to take that moment on 9/11, that your comment on that day would have been, my building's now the tallest. I don't know. For some reason, there are still things that can break through all of this and give one pause, I hope.
But how is 9/11? How is 9/11 about Trump? That's just it's just repulsive, and it's so sad. Almost 3,000 people lost their lives.
Yeah,
and he's talking about his building. And lying about how big it is.
Yeah.
Wow. They call them repulsive. They call them lies that he said. They're really talking about themselves, what they have done here. So the interview where that came up about 40 Wall Street, let's provide a bit more context, okay? Here's what President Trump really said.
For years, I've looked right directly at the building. I'd see the Empire State Building in the foreground and the World Trade Center in the background. And now I'm looking at absolutely nothing. It's just gone. And it's just hard to believe. There's nothing you can do when people are going to be bombing planes at your building. Now, I guess maybe the world is going to be changing, and maybe you're going to have F-16s flying all over the city, etc. But it's a pretty tough situation. The big thing that you really will have to do is never forget. You just can't forget that something like this happened. One of the very sad things is going to be when you look at the skyline of New York, which has become so emblazoned in your own memory, and you look at the skyline of New York and you see these buildings, these 2 buildings, whether you love them or don't love them, they were a great part of the skyline. And then when you look at the skyline after 2001, and you're going to see a skyline without these 2 buildings, you're going to say, what happened? People won't believe it. This was probably worse than Pearl Harbor. Many more people are dead, and they don't know, they have no idea, but I have somebody that was down there who witnessed at least 10 people jumping out of the building from 70 and 80 stories up in the air. I mean, you probably have 25 or 30,000 is the number I've heard, but I would think would be much more than that. This country is different today, and it's going to be different than it ever was for many years to come.
The remarks are profound, appropriate, sensitive. Look at what CNN did there, huh? And yeah, his building did come up. The reporters on Channel 9 asked him about it.
Donald, you have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
Was that a boast or something said in passing, an aside? How could they just play that and ignore everything else? And they went out of their way to say, oh, it's a lie. He's lying about the height of the building. Well, we took a look at it, and there are different ways to measure buildings. You know, do you measure them to the top of the spire, or do you measure them to the roof? Well, Pine Street, 70 Pine Street has 67 stories. I do know this, 40 Wall Street has 72 stories. So which is taller, right? These are kind of terms of art, aren't they, a little bit? To say that he's lying or boasting, you know and I know it's not true. But these people at CNN and the fake news, they convince themselves that, I don't know, they're better than everybody else. And they have, well, they're not.
I do think, though, there will always be the need, even if temporarily it's not appreciated, for what people would say is a traditional news platform. But by that, I don't mean how it's delivered. Right. I mean how it's curated. That you want to know that this has been checked, that this is real, that this has been verified. Because it's very easy to have innuendo and all kinds of rumors, right? But I think that people want the truth, and that knowing what's the truth is, frankly, a time-consuming and expensive proposition, and that's never going to change. So I don't know how it's going to be delivered. I don't pretend to be have any insight on that, but I do believe in the actual product itself.
So it takes some time, right? So they did a drive-by, as Rush Limbaugh would say, right? They took a little clip so they could ignore everything else, right? That's not the truth. That's misinformation, disinformation. So that person's name again, Erin Burnett. She's just one of many doing this all over the place. CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, you name it. And even Fox News. All right, the debate. What do we think, huh? Thumbs down, right? The debate on Fox Business Network. I've met Dana Perino 2 or 3 times in my life. Very nice person, but she's in love with the Bushes. And it's obvious she hates Trump. And this is a little bit about how she moderated.
It's now obvious that if you all stay in the race, former President Donald Trump wins the nomination. None of you have indicated that you're dropping out. So, which one of you on stage tonight should be voted off the island? Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds, starting now. Of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
It's like Jeopardy, right? Write down the answers. What a cheesy thing. But you see, the object is to stop Trump. So how do we all, as a team, get together and stop Trump? How do we increase our chances here? Perino, again, very, very loyal to George W. Bush. That's her man. She made her, and, friends for life. That's fine, but don't take it out on the rest of us. And don't moderate. 2 weeks ago, the Clinton Global Initiative. We should call it the Clinton Globalist Initiative. Yeah, she was there.
Of our organization was somebody that you are here to see, the amazing Secretary Hillary Clinton. Here she is.
That doesn't work. Sorry, you're disqualified. Wow, how about that? The Clinton Globalist Initiative. You can't do both. You can't. It doesn't make you bipartisan. It makes you, I don't know, not to be trusted. We'll be right back.